What's good, everybody? What's going on, man? It's your boy Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. You feel me? But man, we are here for another episode of the Right Quality. As you can see, I'm clearly not in my typical background. I'm on vacation, but that don't stop the potting. You know why it don't stop the potting, Emilio? You know why it don't stop the potting? Because the trade
we put in work.
We put in work. We put in work one, but we had to talk about the trade deadline. We had to talk about the trade deadline. It lived up to the hype. I'll say that. It lived up to the hype. Where do we even start, man? Where do we even start? Because I don't know.
I mean, we could start with the first trade with Kyrie to Dallas because that's confirmed. But maybe we should start with his counterpart that woke us all up, unless you work a night shift. I woke up to Armageddon. I woke up to my girl. I was like, babe, wake up. KD's in Phoenix. She didn't care. She was still tired. She was still very tired. I was over here shaking. I was like, that Beyond Scared Straight kid that got just shaken up. Like,
you couldn't believe it.
It was unbelievable. I was like, who is deep faking this? Who has a Photoshop this today?
Not deep fake.
Fans don't do that. That's just LA fans. So when I checked, it was BR, and my head spun. What do we think about it? Because obviously they get rid of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, which are two great 3-and-D guys for Phoenix Suns. And some picks here and there. But KD, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. Let's talk.
Honestly, man, at this point, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think of super teams when they're created like this. Like, mind you, it's not like I'm not like an anti-super team type of person. But I think a lot of people really get this idea that, we put these big names, on paper, we put these big names together, and it's all going to work out. And we're all going to win a championship. And in some situations, that makes the most sense. But it seems extremely dangerous. Let's just start there, right? It seems like it's something to be scared of, to think about the fact that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are on the same team. Now, that's not to disrespect Chris Paul at all. But I think that the tandem of Booker and Durant is more so that's the part that's like, how could you possibly guard both of them? Right? Like they're two of the more efficient players in the league. So how are we gonna stop that?
Right.
I think that what they lost though is going to come into play when it matters most. I think losing Mikal Bridges, runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year, I think losing him is going to be huge because now you do not have somebody that's willing to guard the other team's best player for 48 minutes. You don't have that. You already lost.
We forget Jay Crowder.
I was just going to say, you already lost one of your premier defenders in Jay Crowder. So I don't think there's ever really a true package that's going to compensate for a KD, but you were going to have to give up something. So if you're not giving up another star, right?
You're giving up eight in that case,
Right. And honestly, I can see why Brooklyn maybe felt like they didn't need Aiden since they have Claxton and they're clearly developing him. But I don't know, to give up two of your better, younger, promising players, all that means, at least the way I look at it, what that means for Phoenix is this is the win right now situation.
Yes.
Because you have KD who is at the tail end of his prime, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm just saying
35 coming off multiple injuries.
I'm just saying, right. I just don't I don't think he performs at this clip for much longer. You know what I'm saying? So in that regard, it's very much y'all have until at the latest next season. At the latest next season, if y'all have not won a championship, getting to the finals isn't it? And that's the thing with these super teams, in my opinion, is that when you have a super team, it's not just about can we get to the finals? No, you have to win, and if they don't win, then it becomes a bust. So I don't know. I don't dislike the trade. Given everything that we've heard, more importantly, kind of on that and kind of more on Brooklyn, what role does the Brooklyn Nets front office play in losing their two stars?
Oof, a significant portion because I haven't heard owners named like this since the Robert Sarvers and like the Priesty Ballmers. I forgot that man's name already.
Yeah.
But unless it's like a severe issue going on with the front office, we usually don't hear their names. But this is the most I've heard KD and Kyrie saying, "Oh, I need one of these people out." Like I don't know what they're doing over there in Brooklyn to rub these guys the wrong way, but not to say it's hard to rub Kyrie the wrong way. I feel like that's a given at whatever place he goes. KD seems like he's fairly easygoing, even though he did have some rumblings with, I mean, Golden State. He didn't like that. They didn't value him as much as the other core guys, or like their words didn't back up their actions, or them just kind of putting him out there in a harm's way in the finals against Toronto. So it's like that was more like on the court stuff. Behind the doors, I don't know. I gotta say it's a 50-50 split. The players play a part and the owners play a part. They gotta come together to kind of make that marriage happen. It's a two-way street.
Now that I think about it, to be honest, I was gonna try to hold off on the KD narrative thing, but I think we need to get into it, to be completely honest. Because ever since Kevin Durant has left Oklahoma City, well, before we even do that, did you know? I don't know if you've heard this stat or heard this clip somewhere, but do you know that since Kevin Durant's sophomore year, like his second year in the league, he's had a Hall of Fame teammate?
Oh, I don't doubt it. Like that man left a team that had the lead against the Golden State Warriors, who had a team formed to beat Golden State that went 7. And then even when they had that lead that they blew, and then they're going to go around and say, "Oh, I don't have enough pieces to do it." Cap, big cap. That makes no sense. You have yes, no one really wants to play with Russell Westbrook, but at the same time, you're right there. You're right there, and you're going to talk about the hardest road. My God.
Listen, I mean, Russell Westbrook, future Hall of Famer. James Harden, future Hall of Famer. Steph Curry, future Hall of Famer. Klay Thompson, future Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kyrie Irving, future Hall of Famer. Chris Paul and Devin Booker, future Hall of Famers. Like, this man has had a Hall of Fame teammate like his entire career. Now, is that his doing? Like, OKC isn't. You know what I'm saying? But going to Golden State, deciding to go to Brooklyn with Kyrie, ultimately wanting to go to Phoenix. And it's not to say that may not have been the best situation for you, but also, I don't know. I think that KD's not a leader. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. And when
You're saying he's not the bus driver? You're saying he's not the bus driver?
KD's not the bus driver. He's not. KD's not the bus driver. Now, that's not to say, I know people, and I'm somebody that says this. When he won his 2 in Golden State, I'm not saying that he was not the best player, especially in those finals. Like, he was. Granted, did Golden State allow him to be because of the way their team is structured? Absolutely. But nonetheless, he was the best player. Don't want to take that away from him. Don't want to discredit him whatsoever. But it's also like, what can you do? Like, how easy is it to beat Kevin Durant when you have Steph Curry on your team? You know what I'm saying?
I will say in OKC, that man did drive the bus, but there was an angry passenger named Russell Westbrook. I was like, no.
He was definitely driving the bus in OKC. And I really don't blame them for losing in 2012, right? Because, I mean, it was the Heat. And by that point, the Heat had meshed and they gelled and they were supposed to win. They were the more experienced team. They were the better team. But I think 16 is really the calling card, because there's absolutely no reason why you lose that series and then you go join that team and you say, I'm going to go join that team because it makes the most sense basketball wise. I'm sure it did. but but that's going to define, that's going to define his career. It still defines his career. So more importantly, back to outside of his narrative for
Yes.
Phoenix, he's in another situation where it's championship or bust. And I'm not saying that that's a negative thing or a bad thing, but you have to hope it works out. But
yeah, my coworker had a great analogy. He was like, well, I was like, oh man, they bust open that championship window that had closed. And then they were like, hold on, we're back. But he was like, no, they had a sliver of hope. They jammed a stick of wood and they're like, wait 1 second. We got one more in us. And I think it is championship or bust because Chris Paul has maybe, I mean, his last playoff series was probably his best playoff series that he probably would have in his career, in his latter half of his career. Devin Booker's obviously in his prime. DeAndre Ayton's not seeing Giannis in the post for his entire lifespan. So for you to get rid of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder, that's your whole defensive front to cover your best opposition. And you're letting your best competition in the East get your best primary defender. Like, it is a slippery slope. It's either, like Golden State where you get rid of Harrison Barnes and it works out, hooray. Or it's a Brooklyn Part 2 where you get rid of Jared Allen, who, not a Giannis stopper, but a Giannis slower downer.
slower down.
You need those guys. Like, PJ Tucker was not stopping KD. No. But did he slow him down? Marginally. By a toe enough. You need those guys that are going to step in front and just get wet up for a whole game. Like, not saying that Shane Battier was the epitome of great defense, but, you need guys that are just going to be humiliated for 48 minutes, trying their best. Because other guys will be like, I'm not stepping out. I know I'm going to get wet up. And they go off for a generational 60 instead of a light 44 on pretty inefficient shooting. So.
When 44 is considered light, that's crazy. But yeah. No, I mean, so ultimately, Phoenix won the trade because you got KD, but I agree. I don't necessarily dislike where Brooklyn is. I just think they need to figure out direction. So I don't know what that means for them this season, but they have solid pieces. I mean, you have Dinwiddie, you have Bridges, you have Johnson, you have Cam Thomas still there, you have Claxton. Like, they are essentially what Utah was. They are like that team in the East now. And now without any heavy expectations, like, okay, let's play, let's feel out what this looks like, and then decide what we want to do. Do we want to bring in a guy to be like the guy that these people play around? Or do we want to just have one of those like 04 Pistons type of teams where everybody just knows their role and we consistently, because it's not like they don't have respectable players there. And they're going to be a really good team defensively. Like, once they start to gel and really like get comfortable, they're going to be a really, really good defensive team. So
they went from one of the few teams in the NBA that have no future and traded away their soul for KD, Kyrie, and Harden to being up there with OKC, Orlando, and Utah in terms of having a pretty decent young team with solid assets.
And they have
wow,
and they have a high ceiling. So I think for them, it's just a matter of, okay, for a lot of those players, we got caught up in these trades for stars, but that team is full of what 24, 25, 26-year-olds. All really entering whatever their primes are going to be, really, more than likely, like at the beginning. So Brooklyn's probably going to be an exciting team to keep an eye on just to see like what they decide to do. But
better than the Bulls. Why fake contend right now when you got Giannis sitting 90 miles north? Idiots, bro. And they made no moves. Oof.
I'm really surprised they didn't make a move with the situation going on with Lonzo. And only because we were already like, we see it's not working, right? We see it's not working. We see the experiment of Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic is not working. I think Lonzo was a huge part of that, which is why, like, even more of a situation where, okay, if there's no real update on Lonzo, then we need to figure out, like, what are we doing? Because I also don't think Lonzo's like the missing piece. Like, oh, with Lonzo, this team is a contender necessarily. I think they're a little bit more respectable, probably, but also that's still just us assuming. That's just us guessing. So I don't know. I was surprised that Atlanta and Toronto didn't make moves at the trade deadline. I was really surprised Toronto did not. Well, they didn't do nothing. So they got
Hurdle back, right?
Yeah,
did they draft him?
I think they did draft him. So they got him back, but but also adding him back to what they already had, I don't really know what Toronto's plan is because they're going to have to do something with those players at some point. Like, since their run in 2019, they just haven't been able to find that magic again. And that doesn't mean that the players are bad. I know there's been some talk about Nurse potentially being out, but I don't think that it's anybody's fault. I just think it's not working.
No. The team construction, it was a bunch of blue guys built around a superstar. And they thought, like Kawhi was that. Pascal is an all-star now, but he's not Kawhi. They need somebody that's going to like go get him a bucket and be that guy to put up like a consistent 28 to 30 a night. And Pascal is kind of that, but he's not striking fear in like the opposing team's like game plan ever. I don't think, at least. They need someone that's going to move the needle a little bit more. I feel like moving OG would have been a move for them, but I don't know who they get back in return that really like push the needle forward for them. I think they just have to like keep this like fairly young team that they have, see what type of like what's what I'm looking for. They don't have a set an identity. They don't have an identity. Like, yeah, they have like a lot of good young pieces, but they're not really like the best defensive team, and they don't really shoot the three well, or like, they're very average at a lot of what they do. And they need something that is just like, going to give them a spark of something. I think they thought that Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. were going to be that for them, but both streaky, smaller guards that I feel like they can definitely move for a couple better pieces for them. Like one big piece to put against Scotty Barnes and maybe OG that would help out. Like, like I feel like they got those two small guards to equate a Dame type of presence like that, that microwave scoring that they need, but they need someone that can do that at an extremely high level. And I don't think they have that.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it right on the nose with identity. I think that they lost identity when Kawhi left. And they had the rental and they made the most of it, But I feel like that partially kind of set them up to where they are in this place now, where they thought that they were going to be able to kind of, okay, Kawhi left, but we still have virtually everybody else from the core, and we should be fine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they'll continue to develop and grow, and we'll be good to contend in the East. And I think that they just didn't account for the fact that, one, Giannis would just keep getting better. Two, that at a certain point in time,
they were going to get
maybe, there were a lot of people in the Giannis sweepstakes before he signed. Yeah, that was true. But them not being sellers, I don't know if it hurts them. I think it's just a matter of them having a more interesting offseason now, because you're going to have to make moves regardless. So it's just a matter of what they're going to decide when that time comes. But kind of doubling back, part of that Phoenix trade, we finally got our guy. I said it in the first episode. We finally get Crowder.
We got rid of three just, players that, what I said. Nora's a black hole. George Hill has a great zoo. And Serge Ibaka's an asshole. Get them all out. And a bunch of 5 second rounders. That was a common theme, too. Love it.
That was a huge thing. And it's funny because we really don't know who these second round picks are going to turn out to be. But honestly, I think what I've learned about the league, and that's something that we can get into a little bit later, but like what I've learned about the league is, yes, you're giving up a lot of picks, but it's also like it's a right now league. Like, it's a right now league. So if I'm in a position to win right now, I'm going to do that. And I will cross the bridge of the picks I lost or whatever when we get there.
Russ, Conley, and D'Lo.
Interesting, very, very interesting trade. I think it's funny that the Lakers got bullied into making these moves and they waited until the end of the trade deadline to do so.
Oh yeah.
But I think the Lakers had a great trade deadline. Like when they like getting, if you think about it, within the last month, they've completely restructured their roster. And I would honestly, I would have loved to see, I would have loved to see this roster from the beginning of the season because now you've surrounded LeBron and AD with everything that they need. And essentially, it's very much similar to the team that they had when they were at their best and when they ultimately won the bubble championship. Whether you count it or not, that's not up for me to debate. But the team that they had, you know, like you surround them with shooting and defensive players.
Yeah.
Because AD should be the anchor of your defense to begin with. AD should really be the focal point of everything you're doing. But Bron is still Bron. Even if Bron's going to be your focal point, you just have to have people that relieve him of that. Like, yes, and I mean, I say you have Schroeder. Like, Schroeder is still there, obviously. And you had Schroeder as somebody who could be a point guard. But it was more so like somebody like D'Lo. You also need another type of lead scorer. Like, and I think the whole thing with D'Lo and why it didn't work in Minnesota was because Minnesota didn't have a point guard. Because D'Angelo Russell does not run the point guard position the way one would necessarily. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a they needed a point guard. He was not that, but he comes to LA and now he's an additional scorer. That's another person that can get you 15 to 20, give or take, you know, on a given night, but can knock down open threes. You get Beasley from Utah, another great 3-point shooter. You go get another big body in Vanderbilt. So now you have Rui, you have Vanderbilt, you have all these defenders now. You have these people that can balance out your roster. And as far as the talk about Russ and the locker room and all that, I mean, the conversation with Westbrook is interesting and somewhat difficult to have in a way because we're talking about a player that still deserves the utmost respect in regards to what he's done in the league.
He just didn't fit there. He didn't fit at all.
But the problem is Russ hasn't really fit in the majority of his teams in the last 5 years.
I got some for that. I don't understand why any of these teams made that move for Russ. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's like, okay, LeBron needs shooters around him. Let's give him the most non-shooting point guard of all time.
But they say Bron wanted him. They said Bron wanted him to be there though. Bron wanted the super team.
I hear that, but if I'm Jeannie Buss, I'm like, man, take Buddy Hield and be happy. Because what does Russ do for y'all besides clog the floor, make it a nightmare for Darvin Ham to think rotations? You know, he's a turnover machine. Like oh man, like
it's so bad.
Like that last game that he played, it's like he had 27, 8, and whatever. But the last 5 minutes of the game, that man is just throwing it directly to to OKC at that. You're letting OKC pick you off. And then yesterday, when the Bucks play them, Dennis Schroeder has 10 assists. It's first time all season. They actually a competent offense. Like, make it make sense. And I said the only real places for him to go are teams that have nothing to do. Chicago, the Clippers don't have a point guard, and Miami Heat have Kyle Lowry at their helm. They obviously want someone new. And Miami is already the most non-shooting team in the NBA, so take them. So, those are the only 3 teams I really seen him going to. Utah, they already had their issues with him with the debacle that Russ had with old boy back in the day. Yeah. He's not staying there. It's very interesting. He's in a limbo state right now where Melo was when he left Houston a couple years back. So I wouldn't say he's blackbally, but he's done this to himself. He's painted himself as this one-dimensional player who needs the ball in his hands, a la LeBron, and you need a lot of shooters. And there's not really teams that have that going for them, So we'll see what that does.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I think Miami probably would be the best fit. Just because I don't know. He fits, and I think that Jimmy would actually be a player that would work for him.
In terms of mentality, I feel so.
Yeah.
Like gameplay wise, oh buddy, oh pal.
I mean, there's no game plan that really works for what Russell Westbrook is doing right now. There's no game plan that works for him. So I don't know. Last question on Westbrook. Will he be in the league next year? The simple fact
let me
that
think. I think bottom of the barrel teams. Like, because if it doesn't work at one of these spots for buyout,
because it's the last year of the contract, so he's gonna have to sign another one.
Unless he pulls a Melo and completely retools his identity, becomes a mini Dennis Rodman that passes. These are the things that he has to do as a, I talked about it in the last episode, but he's not traditional light skin where, we work for this purpose and at some point it doesn't work and you have to rethink stuff. This is coming from a superstars angle now with like Melo and Russ and like, oh, I'm not coming off the bench. This is a fight with pride and ego. And I'm not sure if Russ is willing to fight that battle. And I feel like he might just go design his clothes.
Here's the thing, okay? Even if Russell Westbrook never plays in the NBA after this season, and I'm not wishing that because I think that he should be in the NBA. I'm just saying, if he doesn't, he's already had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
Like it's not like him being a Hall of Famer or something like that is up for debate, in my opinion. So if he was to not play, he may not have accomplished everything that he wanted to in the league potentially, like not having the ring. But what else can you say? Like he's already etched in history. He's already in history. So I don't know, but
I don't know if we see him next year though. That's why I stood there for so long. It's a very tough question to ask. And I guess lastly for LA, they got something calling a young man's phone, and he's balling like a pro. He's going to LA, everybody. Mo Bamba, RIP the Pat Bev era in LA. First and foremost, very sad that that's done. He left with a bang. But Mo Bamba, I like that move. He stretches the defense out. He's long, and he's just going to be. I think he actually has space to develop there instead of a crowded backcourt in Orlando.
So when they moved Bryant, I was a bit confused because of how well he was playing.
Yes.
But then, so when the reports came out that he wanted to trade because he wanted a more increased role, I said, well, I also get that because he was open. And honestly, if I'm Thomas Bryant and I'm looking like, yes, that's AD, but also like.
You see that picture on LeBron's fadeaway? Thomas Bryant really thought he was gonna post entry there.
Listen, gotta appreciate the fundamentals. Gotta appreciate the fundamentals, you know what I'm saying? But if I'm Thomas Bryant, it's like, yes, of course that's Anthony Davis, but also Anthony Davis don't be on the court. Like I'm the one that's been out here like putting up these numbers, like putting in the work, like being consistent, whatever. So I would want an increased role as well, especially if it's not looking like I'm at least gonna be the for sure backup center. But him going to Denver of all places, I'm like, not y'all just made Denver better because that's who's backing up Jokic now. Jeez.
Yeah, they don't have to settle with who was it, DeAndre Jordan,
right? Who ain't been playing anyway. I didn't know why they signed him. I didn't know why that's somebody that needed to be out the league. He should have got traded somewhere. But
Chris Paul got him a bag. Chris Paul absolutely sold that man as a premium defender and rebounder.
No, and lob catcher, But yeah, but no, I love Mo Bamba to the Lakers. And if they find a way to make this work, I don't know about this year. I don't know what their goals or expectations are for this season. But if they keep this roster and just go through an off season where they just let the team gel, and everything, and everybody stays healthy and comes back, I would say next year is a year where you really look out for them. If they don't change anything and they just take the rest of the season, learn each other, see what happens, go through the off season, continue to bond, and then prepare for next season, it'll be interesting to see.
Speaking of Denver making moves too, Bones Highland's on the move too. A
The
different
Clippers.
LA Clippers. My friend said that he's got the worst plus minus on Denver, and he's really not going to do much. I like that move a lot for the Clippers. Maybe statistically, analytics, it doesn't pass test. Eye test wise, though, I like him a lot. I think that he changes the dynamic of what they do over there in LA.
I love the move for both parties. So, because we have been hearing that Bones might have been out, out of Denver for a little bit, whether it be like he just for whatever the reasons are, whether he wasn't meshing with the coach, whatever. Cool, but I Bones. So last year I was in Denver and I went to a Denver game. It was my first time even hearing of Bones Highland, but it stood out because his song when he scored was a Bone Thugs and Harmony song. So I was like, that's fire. But so that's when I kind of started like hearing his name more and paying attention. But he's just a bucket. Like he's just a bucket. Like he's just one of them players. But going to the Clippers still need a point guard, right? Still need a point guard. Don't know how they're gonna do that, but they have enough talent now where I think, especially in your closing lineup, just let PG run the point. Honestly, like at this point, we're playing positionless basketball anyway.
Why not?
So just let PG run the point. You're gonna have him or Kawhi bringing the ball up anyway. And it's not like they both can't get to their own shots. And not only did they get Bones Highland, but they also somehow managed to get Eric Gordon. So now you have a bench of Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, and Norman Powell. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane to have three players like that coming off your bench. It's honestly ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I think it's phenomenal. And you know what? All right, before, damn, let me not speak into existence. But speaking of the buyout candidates and Patrick Beverley, do you think he makes a return?
He could.
I want the Bucks to win, but do you think he makes a return? I don't know. That's tough.
Could. And if he did, that would be a really interesting connection. If they link back up and Pat Bev went back to the Clippers, I would like that move though. More trades around the league, man. I feel like we got about through half of them. Or that was about half of them.
Yeah.
So what else?
Let's talk about the sneaky smart trades. I think Thibault to the Blazers is definitely a low-key great move for them. Because if you're looking for OG, you just basically got off-brand OG that just needs to work on a shot a little bit more. Really love that piece from him because Damon's going to be shooting enough,
So I don't know what the Blazers' goal is, right? But Thibault was a great pickup. Reddish was a great pickup. Yeah. I don't know what their outlook is on the season, right? But adding those pieces, like adding some longer, you gotta think. You now have Jeremy Grant, Cam Reddish, and Matisse Thybulle. Like you have 3, 6, 8, 6, 9-ish players with long wingspans that can defend. Again, it's hard because I don't know what that means in terms of they're also a team that doesn't really have an identity. But if that's a start, if that is somewhat of a start, to figuring out like, okay, if we can establish ourselves defensively and say we can lock down players on a regular basis, we can make things difficult for players on a regular basis. We know we can get offense. Like we got offense. We can do that. But if we can start actually stopping teams, if they can keep it together, and they can keep everybody happy from what they seem to be doing, the direction they be going, I would like to see them take the next step. I would love that for Dame. I would love that for a lot of players on that team. Be really interesting to see what happens. But I like it.
Yeah.
I also like Josh Hart to the Knicks. That swap for Josh Hart and Cam Reddish, think that was great for both teams. So I think to the Knicks as well.
I actually think the Blazers team composition is the best it's ever been. Like this compares this compares with like when they had Al-Farouq Aminu and they were like competing for the Western Conference title. Like they
had Aldridge, it was Aldridge, Aminu, and when Damon like just got there, like and within like his first like 4 years,
Like I don't mind this at all. They defensively mark up better now than ever, and I think Dame is always going to be that guy that can put up 60 in a game. You don't really need anyone that's going to be like a CJ to go get you a bucket. You just need someone that's going to get a stop now. So it's kind of the best case.
Hopefully it works out. There were some other kind of sneaky trades. Boston didn't do much. They grabbed
Muscala.
They grabbed Muscala from OKC.
The Richardson for Devontae Graham was definitely the most wash trades. I don't.
Wait. Who was Graham traded for again? Who went to
Devontae Graham for Josh Richardson to the Spurs, or Josh Richardson to New Orleans? Devontae Graham to the Spurs. You know, shooter for shooter.
But I think New Orleans actually going to get a bigger body.
Okay.
I think that if they're looking to compete in the West, I think just having more size, along with still having the shooting. In New Orleans, we were talking about them as our dark horses before. When they were going through that stretch, they had a stretch where they lost like 10 in a row. And they literally fell from like third or fourth to like out the play-in. But now they're pushing their way back and they're back into the middle of the pack. So again, man, the West is if all teams enter healthy, this last third of the season is going to be really interesting. And boy, when the playoffs get here, it's going to be something to see. It's going to be something to see.
I think probably the last one to talk about, which is up in the air as we speak. Wiseman to Detroit, Saddiq Bey to Golden State, Saddiq Bey to Atlanta for 5 second-round picks, and those 5 second-round picks returning GP2 back to Golden State, which that is who it hinges on. See if his core muscles have truly recovered. That is the last thing to keep this trade from going through. I think it's a win-win-win. Detroit, they do have Jalen Duren that they are seeing a lot of progress. He had 30 and 18 last night, balling. But Saddiq Bey as another wing piece for Atlanta. I feel like that's great. Someone that can hit a three and play high level defense for them next to Trey. And then GP2 just fits in that defensive system, and he knows the offense. He was a champion with them last year, so I feel like they just want to get as close to running it back as possible. I feel like James Wiseman wasn't cutting it out for their 5 spot, so they just moved on and said, you know what, we'll just go low profile, go with GP2, and just keep that perimeter defense on lock. So
I mean, he hasn't played. So I don't know, but the Warriors. I mean, I like GP2 going back to them. I've always liked GP2 as a player. I don't know if he makes a huge difference in regards to them being able to get over the little hump that they seem to be stuck on right now. But it's not a bad move. If nothing else, a lateral move. But I mean, at least you didn't get worse. You know what I'm saying?
It's definitely insurance for step out. For sure.
Yeah.
Just make sure the defense is shored up on that end.
Yeah, we'll see. And honestly, if Steph can stay, healthy, like when he does come back, and luckily the injuries he had this year haven't been super severe, and have seemed to be injuries that are just kind of like, the tic-tac injuries in the sense of, just stuff that as you plan, like it's not going to be something that really fully heals what you trying to play through it. So yeah, but man, I mean, winners and losers of the trade deadline, because it was a frenzy, and it was a lot of moving pieces. But I think you had a lot of contenders who said, okay, no, let me stamp this. Let me finalize our contention by getting this last piece that we need. You had some teams that went from being potential contenders to now, like a Brooklyn, for example, like we're not necessarily rebuilding, but we're in this phase of trying to re-identify who we are and kind of reset our goals from there. But we'll start with losers. Biggest losers of the trade deadline.
Bulls, the Chicago Bulls, Big L, fly the L. I think they say that for the Cubs. Fly that L, fat and proud. They did that squat. For what reason? You're going to settle with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine being your stars with Giannis above you? Go to bed. The Bulls definitely lost that deadline. I don't know. I feel like there are teams that did nothing that, should have done nothing, like the Sacramento Kings. I feel like they don't need any retooling, so I wouldn't really call them a loser in this. I don't know if there's anyone else that lost in this trade deadline. I feel like the Bulls were a team that really needed to make a move. I don't really think that there's any true losers. I guess what maybe the Raptors, if they had any thoughts or inclinations of trading OG for somebody, because there was a lot of chatter about the Raptors are going to make a move. The Raptors are going to make a move. And then
I thought they were. I really did think that they were going to do something. But I mean, now it's just yet to be seen. But
I would say if there's anyone, the Bulls. That's it. That's all I got. Who do you got?
I think the Bulls. I agree that the Bulls are losers. I think the Raptors only in the context of the decision they're going to have to make regardless. You can consider them losers because they didn't maybe start the process of figuring out what they're going to do. But give or take, that's
Brooklyn losing contention, but they picked up a future. So I feel like
so that's why they're not losers. They're not losers. I mean, whenever you somehow still manage, if any other team somehow managed to get Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, like I'm not saying these are like top 10, 15 players, but if you were to hear of other teams getting these players, we wouldn't be looking at that like, oh, that's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. They've just been players that are being swapped for a Kyrie Irving or a Kevin Durant.
D'Angelo Russell, Andrew Wiggins, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverly, Walker Kessler, Bo Morrow, a 2023 and 2025 first-round draft pick, a 2026 pick swap, a 2027 and 2029 first-round draft pick, all for Gobert, Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and a second-rounder. The Minnesota Timberwolves may not be losers of this deadline or the next deadline. They might be losers forever. And I feel so bad. Because I lived there, and I have friends that have to live with this. And at first, I was like, hey, at least they flooded the market for KD. And then KD still on some Phoenix for less than what they gave up for Rudy Gobert. It's astounding. Oh, what's good, my guy? It's astounding that they gave up all of that for a rental of the 2014 to 2018 Jazz that didn't work. I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if this is sabotage by A-Rod, if he's the sleeper cell, if he's trying to get back at J-Lo. I don't know. There's no explanation for anything that the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing besides possibly running out Cat and Ant. I am baffled by these moves. Mike Conley is a good move for them as a point guard, but what's good, my guy? You're in the way. It's incredible, the fumbling of this bag. I don't get it. I don't see what the moves are. I don't see what they're trying to do. I've been watching this for my life. I can't find the positives in it.
I just want you to know right now, if I make that into a clip, oh my God.
Dog.
Bro, it's gonna be, I'm gonna do it. Oh my God.
Dog. Make it make sense to me. I've wrapped my head around it for a long time. I was like, yeah, they flooded the market for KD so that he couldn't go to the West. Obviously not true. They could have gave this package to the Timberwolves, to Brooklyn for KD. Entirely. I'm shocked. I'm appalled. Anthony Edwards is your future Buck. But, man, I got to say it with enough players, at some point, some of these are going to hit. But, man, an abysmal deadline. Give them an F++.
F++, not even an F minus. You still give them a plus, though.
No, it's a plus because it's phenomenal. It's incredible that they do such a thing. I don't get it still. Wow.
But yeah, man. Okay, biggest winners of the trade deadline.
Certainly, the Suns, the Bucks become better competitors for each other for sure. Still, man, Phoenix gave up much more than what we had to for an elevated shot at a chip. But yeah, Suns, Bucks. I think Brooklyn comes out better for their future.
I
Denver
mean,
makes very low key acquisitions. Just Thomas Bryant as a backup five for Jokic. I feel like that changes their dynamic completely. Where you actually have someone that can give full effort defensively and just sell out on that end, while Jokic is going to come beat them the hell up on offense.
yeah.
The Lakers got much better, and the Clippers improved their depth for sure. So,
Which is crazy because they already had relatively decent depth.
yeah, with Norman Powell off the bench, like and Reggie Jackson, and a Morris brother that's going to come in and just like fight somebody. Yeah, not bad.
Also, Terrence Mann is over there as well. I don't believe he got moved for anybody at the deadline.
Oh yeah, no, Terrence Mann. Yeah, he's been playing really well too as the deadline has approached. So yeah, I think those are all your winners.
Lastly, so is Dallas a winner?
Man, that's a lateral move because we got to see what Kyrie does. Because
they're a winner. They're a winner. I still think they're a winner.
After this season, I'll be able to determine whether a winner or a loser.
Well, yeah, it'll be easy to say it after the end of the season.
Because if it's for a rental, they lost. But if he resigns, it's a win.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Suns, Bucks, Lakers, Blazers.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot about that.
I want to say those are probably the four that I think like really, really won in terms of not necessarily the makeup of their team changing, like some more than others, but more so I think they legitimately, considerably raised their chances at a champion. Well, not the Blazers, but they got considerably better, even if it was just the move of one player. They got considerably better for whatever their aspirations are. So that's how I'm kind of dictating who winners were. Yeah, man. No, I'm not gonna lie. I do like the hat for this episode though. I am a fan of the hat. I'm really a fan of this background. I don't know. I like you've been having plants lately, so I figure out you should find a way. You should find a way to keep that consistent. Keep the plants in the rotation for sure.
Oh, watch the next episode. It's about to be this times infinity. Like you don't even know. Just watch. I got you.
I don't want to find out. Well, man, we just talking at this point. Y'all don't have to listen to us no more. But until next time, until our next episode, we'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.